in the end game OTK. Obviously, that could have changed fairly drastically since then with a lot of the stalling cards added in, like Flash of Light, Timeout. Maybe that means you have to go more for the OTK.
It's one thing that if we'll just touch on the previous game just for a second while this crazy fast matchup gets all underway. Haha. Maybe that was the issue with Seiko's hand. He had the combo and nothing else. And if you're not pressuring the Warlock, they can spend all of their mana on card draw freely because they're not getting beat up. Because one thing you can do versus Megathune is put them to 4, and then they can't combo you because they die. So there was zero pressure, which meant Tars could just draw, tap with no problems whatsoever. But yeah, let's get to this mirror.
Yeah, I mean, who knows? Maybe the win condition, the best way to win is to go coin Call to Arms into Tarim, and then just hope to smoke your opponent down. But again, I think Seiko played the best he had with the hand that was dealt to him that last game. And here, it's looking like he's got a pretty decent hand. I am mainly referring to Call to Arms, which is still just absolutely insane in this matchup. Getting those cards out of your deck, hopefully pulling out them loot orders to get the draw rolling even more.
Yeah, and there are odd times in the matchup where, again, you can actually beat your opponent up in the mirror. And Tarim is a big key for that one.
Absolutely.
But often, Call to Arms trumps everything else because it thins your deck so fast. It's almost like 5 mana, draw 4 to 5 cards sometimes. It's absurd. And Call to Arms matched by Tars. Okay, we've got a game.
We do indeed. Both players getting off to a very nice start. And in any kind of matchup where both decks are very Death Knight reliant, as this one absolutely is, I like it when either both players find him at the start or neither player does. You don't like the games where one player just runs away because they find the Death Knight and the other one doesn't. So with both players here, it's a race to find that Uther just to get those horsemen rolling.
Okay, so it looks like Seiko may be considering Zola in the Thalnos as a guess, just for more card draw. He does have a few options, and the reason Zola can be played is because he has a 2-mana Brewmaster in hand. Which effectively, just imagine the Brewmaster is now Zola, because it does the same job, almost. And because he has it in hand, it means it isn't going to be drawn by a Call to Arms #2, so it's just a guaranteed bounce.
Yeah, there's interesting implications, because he's kind of turning Zola into another card draw, which obviously draws him closer to Uther, which I said is the main thing he's looking for. But it also means he has to draw another bounce effect, which he's just thrown away from his hand. Even though he has the ability to do the combo still, he now has to find 2 Brewmasters instead of just the one. It gets an awful lot more complicated. I think I like going for the extra card.
I do. I also will mention that Seiko is running 2 Youthful Brewmasters in his
really?
deck.
Wow.
I believe so, unless I'm going to look really silly now.
No, you're right.
No, he is running 2. So, again, he's got an extra bouncer as well as the
that'll
one
be nice.
And also, who cares about bouncers if you don't draw Uther, right? Like, they don't matter to a certain extent.
That's true. One of the kind of secret uses that becomes, well, I suppose not so secret, but the tertiary uses of these bounces, as I said, is on Shavala, which is somewhat less useful in this matchup because they're not going to be going for damage, probably more the OTK. But even so, you know, it's not like these bounces are completely dead cards until you draw Uther. You can get some value.
Depends how the matchup's going. You could bounce Tarim, for example. You can bounce Lunessa to draw more cards. You know, there are multiple options. And one thing that we'll touch on that we talked about in the previous match was with OTK Paladin, especially in the mirror, you need to up your chances of getting a unique horseman as much as you can. And a late Lunessa, or even just a card with Spite-Rich Steed to defend the 2/2s, because outside of Consecrate and Pyro Equality, the Paladin can't get to them. There's no silence. You can't get to the 2/2s. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was a Righteous Protector drawn. It is held on to just say, okay, Righteous Protector, Spite-Rich Steed, Hero Power, go. And try and go that way.
I completely agree. And I think things like that are what make this matchup not quite so heinous as a lot of the pros would have you believe. Because, you know, every player has matchups that they personally really just don't enjoy playing. They don't like the way it flows. It doesn't suit their play style, whatever. But I think this matchup doesn't maybe quite deserve quite so bad of a reputation as it's gotten already.
It's one of those things, you remember the worst parts, right? That's it. I mean, you know what, getting killed on turn 5 by Oddrogue sucks too, but you know, that's just the way it is sometimes.
But again, obviously, when you can feel pretty sad when one player, if your opponent finds Uther and you do not, you have some legitimacy.
Or you feel more sad when you find Uther first and still lose because of bad rolls.
Yes, that feels
that's the low point, Darren. Trust me, I've been there more than once. strange timeout usage, but mainly to just keep the hand empty, because again, timeout doesn't beat the OTK, and neither player has gone for that sort of brute force approach of trying to just beat up their opponent instead. Yeah,
literally just to get it out of the hand, because, I mean, you know, what's it going to do? Just maybe he gets to the point where he's overdrawing with, if he finds Lanessa, I suppose. Obviously, he deliberately played Flash of Light on a minion rather than face.
Pretty common play.
Yeah, just so that it retargets with the Lanessa as well.
I'll say, though, that Seiko does, next turn, have the ability to start hitting Tars because of the Spike Ridge Steeds, right? Hero Power Spike Ridge, and then Hero Power Spike Ridge again, because... Again, Paladin can't really deal with the death rattles, right? Like, you can't... Is that double time?
That was double timeout. I think that's the first time.
Making sure he takes
2 hands raised. Yeah. You have been stopped.
That was the one for the Hunter game, too. But yeah, like, at this point, Seiko can just, one, get these Spike Ridge out of the hand, because they hit Lanessa later anyway. Yeah. But also, he can just start hitting him, because the Paladin doesn't really kill these minions. It's too much health. They don't have ways to kill them.
Yeah. I agree that at the moment that looks like what he's trying to move towards, because it's probably not his win condition. It's just like you said, it makes it more difficult for Tars to run away with a victory by having the Horseman stick about. But as soon as Tars finds a Spike Ridge Steed of his own, this board just enters complete gridlock. Like, nothing's attacking through anything, because everything has so much health. This is like the old Q-block meta, where it was just 5 Void Lords on the board at all times, and no one hit anyone for like 10 turns.
Yeah, and what it does is, you know, one, Seiko needs to empty cards out of his hand, so you play Spike Ridge because why not? Yeah. But also, it just means that your opponent has to consider the fact that they're taking damage, and we see Gluttonous Ooze come down. So there goes the weapon, there goes the lifesteal. So
okay.
You can see it now, right? Yeah. I'm not saying it's the way Seiko's going to win, but Tars has to consider it. And the second Tars has to spend mana on defending, he isn't spending mana on progressing his hand, getting to those bounces, getting to the Uther effect.
That's true. And, you know, maybe with going for double timeout, he may be starting to think, yeah,
oops,
I'm Tars, I like a good meme, but even then.
Okay, so already 3 bounces in hand now. Just missing Mr. Uther.
Yeah. And Tars, I mean, he needs to find a pretty specific card as well, so the race is on, I suppose. Tars has the obvious advantage of, like you said, maybe he can stick one of the Horsemen on the board. Uther can just win the game without any assistance, just by sticking the 4 Horsemen the old-fashioned way.
Do you ever just like Shivala here?
What, attack into the Brewmaster?
Or maybe just
push
not?
face? Yeah.
Because the only way Shivala dies is like Wild Pyro, Spell, Equality.
Yeah.
Or, you know, Equality, Wild Pyro, Spell.
Yes.
Whichever way, you know, whatever. So if that happens, well, the whole board clears and it's still awkward because of the Spike Ridge Steeds that will create 2 forces. Look at this. Seiko beating him up. I said it's possible.
He's shaken up the win condition because, like you said, he still has another Brewmaster in the deck as well, in the youthful Brewmaster. Yeah. And before then, hey, this Ancient Brewmaster's a 4-mana 5/4. You can use it to just hit your opponent.
Yeah, it's often, I was talking to Sol about this earlier, where a lot of the time, if your first bounce is with an Ancient Brewmaster, then your second bounce, if it's Zola, you actually Zola the Brewmaster, and then Brewmaster the second bounce, your hero power, because you retain a 5/4 on board, which is very important in a lot of matchups, and just almost always positive. Now, this is what I mean, and suddenly, okay, so there's Wild Pyro Equality, it's the cheapest way to clear because Consecrate's the more expensive option, if he had it. But suddenly it's just reducing mana count. We can see the Brewmaster and Hero Power fits well anyway, but the second there's no Pyro and it needs a Consecrate, well, the turn starts getting messy then and slows the game down.
As we see Tars here finally feeling forced into letting rip with the Wild Pyro Equality clearing off that board as Shivala comes down. I will never get bored of that animation.
Shivala's just MVP. Just gets the job done every time. Wins your games. And does it very well versus the aggro deck. Because the second that nice Tiger comes down, the game's not over.
Yeah, pretty much. That is, well, that's like the main use of the bounce effects in most matchups, against aggro in particular, is getting them down on Shivala.
Tars now 2 Horsemen out of 4 ticked off, and the 4th one doesn't matter because you always have it. Yes, is the way the combo works. Yeah. Nessa coming down for Seiko, but is it just 1 draw effect, I believe? The 1 Holy Light? There's been no Potion of Heroism, I don't think. Am I about to be proved wrong? No? Yeah. Okay, so only 1 draw, still not Uther, and
8 cards left. It's getting down there, man. And he's still pulling ahead on board. Like, this Lanessa is just a big tempo play. If he can be met with no answer or no board clear from his opponent, maybe Seiko can start to pull this back. But even then, just Sunkeeper. Tarim looks pretty good to me on this turn. He's trying to take a value trade first.
Okay, that's a copy. So
we got a copy, people.
So this is what we're talking about now. It's pretty easy to explain now that you can see the board state. Tars has a duplicate, so he doesn't need to bounce it. It's useless. But Seiko cannot leave it on board because that one's down, Nazrim, I think that one is.
Yes.
It means that Tars' next hero power, if Nazrim's still on the board, is one of the other 3.
Yes.
So it ups his chances of getting one of the other 2 he needs.
Right.
So it still has to be killed by Seiko.
Still got to be dealt with. And if Tarim were to come down, now after, I guess, the value trade into the 1/1, there wouldn't be the ability without some extra assistance to be able to kill off that Deathlord Nazgrim. Which, I mean, you know, Tars can assume that Seiko has some kind of a
The
trick.
assistance is there, right?
Yes, exactly.
Almost all the time. He's going to do it, though, because really not much else to do, to be honest.
Yeah, he's obviously a little bit sad that he can't play out one of these 2/2s just to get a little bit more pressure on the board.
Counter Tarim. Oh, no, he's actually going to push more damage, not put any into the Tarim himself.
This is the Seiko special, man.
I like it.
These are just always some of my absolute favorite series to watch. Is when people play control decks in the way they are not supposed to be played. Like this is not what the deck is.
You just want control decks to be aggro decks, Derek. Is that what you're telling me right now?
Pretty much. Like it always reminds me of when Muzzy won his tour stop in Copa America when he 3-0 swept Quest Rogue with like control mage, control priest, I think, and maybe like control warrior. Like it was one of the most absurd series I've ever seen.
Something to bear in mind is the second Tars hits number 3, the game is effectively over.
Pretty much.
As there's no...
As long as he survives.
Yes, as long as he survives. Which now is what I was saying earlier about the aggression. He cannot hero power, bounce, and spite rage.
Yeah.
And he used double timeout.
No rest.
That's another Darian.
It's a copy.
Man, Tars must be looking like he's getting quite a migraine there in his head.
Hey. I wonder how many people actually get that, because they may not know the full name of the card.
Yeah, I mean, also, it has to be a joke to be gotten, and I'm not sure that qualifies.
I think if everyone would say that was a hard C-.
Yeah.
Okay, but the important thing here as well is now the decision from Seiko is Uther or Tarim.
Hello?
And I think
Hello?
Tarim might be better because he's just committed. The Uther's great for the damage, but the 5 damage doesn't really change this too much.
Yeah.
Although we can swing in, put a 3-1 in, Shivala the 2/6, and then push for 8.
Yeah, like I'm looking at
Maybe Uther's better because you can always.
Well, no, I'm looking at attacking with the Shivala Consecration. Oh,
and then you lose 2 3-1s, right?
Yeah,
I think Uther's right. Yeah, I think you Uther, put the 3-1 in, and then just Shivala down the 2/6, and then just push. Because you want to defend this Spite Ridge Speed Death Rattle.
Yeah.
Because there's still equality. There's still an equality clear left in the deck, I believe, for Tars.
And as long as Seiko keeps the pressure up here, I think he knows exactly what his opponent can't do, which is hero power, Zola, Steed. There's just 1 mana, not enough. And that means what can Tars do now?
It just doesn't help, right? It's just... And everything's too much. This weapon will not get destroyed. The weapon hits through... So Seiko just does that again, except he has Tarim in the weapon this turn.
Yeah.
So he can Tarim trade 1, kill it off anyway, and just push through for more. So I think that's just game.
I mean, it's looking that way. Can Call to Arms get like a Righteous Protector? I think there's only 1 in the deck, and I think it might have already been pulled off of the first Call to Arms.
Oh, Tars only playing 1?
He's only playing the 1.
Oh, I don't know about that, Tars. I like some crazy deck building myself, but Righteous Protector is a very good card.
Very good card.
And this is what... You don't give the Paladin the mana to actually get anything done.
Yeah.
The pressure's insane.
And I mean, fair play to Seiko, because he has been playing to this for a while. As soon as he bounced that Shivala, I knew that he had switched 100% in his mind. This is his win condition. His opponent is always winning the OTK race. So let's just kill him so he can't even get there. Tars knows he's very much on the ropes here.
There's the one he needed. I didn't even me see that card. Oh, equality. Yeah, equality hit, and that's going to be 8.
Or just bounce back to Shabala. That's just it.
Seiko, do what you want. You have won this series in very impressive fashion, in my opinion, because it won OTK Paladin deck I personally like, but the way it's played is extremely good. He did get the beat down, and as you said, hit that one moment. It was like, right, switch gears, go. Yeah. And he made it work and put Tars under far too much pressure. And Tars, maybe for the second time, regretting some timeout usage, because double timeout, I don't know if that was even necessary on that turn.
That's a good point.